Good evening. A very warm welcome to all of you on this very special and auspicious event. We are delighted beyond joy to have amongst us Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, Swami Nityastanandaji, and dignitaries from the ashram. Thank you, Swamiji, for taking our time. Professor Shastri, may I request you to please also felicitate the Swamijis on the ground. Thank you. I'll now request Professor Shastri to please introduce Swami Sarvapriyanandaji.
Good evening. A very warm welcome to each and everyone here at IIM Bengaluru. All of us know about Sarvapriyananda. He's a monk of the Ramakrishna Mission. Prior to joining the order, he actually also did an MBA. He joined the order in 1994. And he was ordained as a monk in 2004. He held many positions in India, including Vice Principal of the Devgarh Ramakrishna Mission School and the Principal of the Training College at Belur Math. Belur Math is the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Mission, which has centers all over India and around the world. Swamiji moved to the United States in 2015 and currently is the resident Swami and head of the Vedanta Center in New York, which was founded by none other than Swami Vivekananda himself. He has been a very popular and very insightful speaker at various universities, at the United Nations, at the Parliament of Religions, and he has also spoken not only through the podium of the Ramakrishna Mission, but he has been invited by orders and religions other than Hinduism. He is also a fellow of the Harvard Divinity School, where he studied Buddhism. So we are very privileged, Swamiji, that you have agreed to come and speak to us. So over to you. We look forward very much to your talk.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Pranams to revered Swami Nityastanandaji Maharaj. Greetings to all the revered monks and brahmacharis who have come here, esteemed members of the faculty and administration of IIM Bengaluru. Professor Shastri is there. And students, hopefully some students are there. I know how it goes. I've seen in IITs, IIMs also, if you leave it free and open, PGP students would rather not come. The executive MBA students might come, but the regular kids, they are overburdened with assignments and deadlines. But you know, what I'm going to say would actually be pretty useful in facing the pressures that they are facing right now. As Professor Shastri mentioned, I was trying to keep it hidden, but I sort of belong to your tribe. Before becoming a monk, I was on a campus very much like this, not this one, but a similar campus, and I was also, I did my MBA. Which is why I think Advaita in daily life, that daily life part of it, it's a very MBA attitude. And philosophy is fine, but how can we get something which will be useful for us right away, right now? as was just mentioned, I have been on my feet for quite some time now because I've been traveling. I took the longest flight that I've ever taken in my life, nearly 18 hours non-stop from New York to Singapore. And then from Singapore, I came here yesterday. So I'm a little hazy on what the time is, what is the date. And so what I'm going to say now also, you should take it with a pinch of salt. And then However, the advantage is that I get to speak on my favorite subject and to an audience which is very interested in this subject. So I'm going to enjoy myself, and I suggest that you all do the same. I'll speak for about 40 to 45 minutes, and then the subject is not unknown to many people here. You have been following Vedanta, Advaita closely, studying it, practicing it. And then we will have question answer. That's the most interesting part of it. So if you've got questions, keep it in your mind. You'll get to ask your questions. I'll also convey my namaskars to, I understand there's another hall where this is being screened. People we could not unfortunately accommodate in this hall. Some people are sitting there, so namaskars to them also. All right. Advaita Vedanta and Advaita in daily life. What are we talking about here? Advaita, we know, is the philosophy, is the highest spiritual teaching of the Vedas, which are found in the Upanishads. So the very definition of Vedanta is Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. The source of spiritual knowledge called the Upanishads is Vedanta. And then Vedanta comes in many flavors, if you will. It's been taught, interpreted, systematized by great acharyas into these wonderful, grand edifices of schools of thought. The non-dual school, Advaita Vedanta, which is the primary interpretation which I will use today. But also, we must acknowledge, because we are here in this land, this is the land where the main streams of Vedanta, they have confluence here, like Triveni, Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita Vedanta, all in this most holy land. One way of, when we talk about the goal in spiritual life, sometimes you talk about it as if it is somewhere distant from us. What I mean by this is, sometimes when you're driving along in the United States, you see this, some church has put up a big billboard. It says, heaven is a place. That's all it says. Heaven is a place. And then below it will be written, call 1800 for some. So they will give you some knowledge about heaven. But notice, when it says heaven is a place, so heaven is some place, not this place. It is some location. It is separated from us by distance. So the goal, some distance somewhere else, not here. That's one way of putting it. And that's there in many of the theistic religions of the world. Advaita Vedanta, so I'm doing what marketing people might recognize, first a hard sell of Advaita, advertisement. So it creates interest in that. And I'm not alone in this. You'll see Sri Krishna, once in a while, when he starts a chapter, he'll start with, I'm going to tell you the king of all secrets, the king of all, Rajavidya, Rajaguhya, strong advertisement, so that Arjuna stays awake, takes notes and is serious about it. So one of the advantages of Advaita Vedanta, as I see it, is that what Advaita is talking about is not distance from us in space. It's not that there is Brahman, Atman, Moksha somewhere there, not here. No, Advaita says what we are seeking in Advaita is here. It's there also. It's everywhere, but also here. The goal that we are seeking in Advaita is not separated from us in time. So another billboard, these are actual billboards I saw. It says that after death, very ominous statement, after death you will see God. So it's as if a little scary also. And again below that, call 1800 for now. But notice, I immediately noticed the language, after death. After. It's a time word, before, after. So that means not now. God is not now, heaven is not now, spirituality is not, or spiritual realization at least, is not now. It's then, later, after death, after the next avatar comes, after I get samadhi, after I get some vision of God, after that, then only I'm enlightened, then only I have reached heaven, then only I have got God. Something, after something. But Advaita Vedanta says, it's after that also, but it's now. And it's all the time. The goal that what we are going to talk about in Advaita Vedanta and what I will talk about today is there, everywhere, and here. Is before and after, but most importantly, it's now. It's here and now. And also, when we talk about spirituality in many traditions, we talk about it as if it's something other. God or something which is something different from me. I, me, right now. Other than me, there is something which I have to realize. In Advaita Vedanta, another advantage is what we are talking about is not an other. It's you. It's you. It's you here and now. So what we are going to talk about in the next few minutes is you. Here and now, right now, as you are, as we are, right here, right now. What I did just now, those who have been studying Advaita Vedanta, you will know it. Technically it is called Desha Kala Vastu. There is no separation in Desha, space, what we are going to seek. There is no separation in Kala, time, what we are going to seek. And there is no separation in object, Vastu. That's not one object to another object, and not one entity to another entity. It's you. So if it is, there's no separation in time, space, and object, Desha, Kala, Vastu, then what kind of a journey is this spiritual journey in Advaita Vedanta? One can put the journey in physical terms also, in space terms. It's a journey from our worldly life to heavenly life. You can go from here to Vaikuntha. That is one kind of journey. Or it's a journey, you live this life, and after that, if you're a devout, believing person, moral person, after this life, you attain to some spiritual state, post-mortem spirituality. So that is also possible. Or you attain to some divine entity, God. So spiritual journey can be from one space to another, one place to another. It can be from one time to another. It can be from one entity to another entity, or one object to another object, one thing to another. But in Advaita Vedanta, we are denying all of that. We are not saying it's not about going anywhere. It's not about waiting for something to happen. It's not even about something else other than you. If it's not a journey in space, if it's not a journey in time, if it's not a journey in object, Vastu, then what kind of spiritual journey is Advaita Vedanta? It's a journey from ignorance to knowledge. From not knowing, not realizing, not getting it, not waking up to it, to knowing it, realizing it, getting it, to waking up to it. Now, here is the interesting thing, that if I say God is in heaven, I am safe right now. Or God is after death, you will see God, then I am safe right now. Because if you ask me, why do this God you're talking about, why can't I see God now? Well, because God is, you will see only after death. You are not dead yet, so you are not seeing. And after death, you can't come and catch me also. If you don't see God, you said after death, you will see, where is God, Swamiji? No, Swamiji not around anymore. But the teacher of Advaita has a problem, has a big challenge. The moment I say, make grand claims like, right here, right now, you are that reality, we are going to talk about Atman, Brahman, then the immediate challenge will be, I don't feel that I am Atman, Brahman, right here, right now. Right now I am Aham Brahmasmi. If you're saying that, I don't feel it. Show me. If it is right here, if it is right now, how can we realize it? How can you demonstrate it to me? In Vakya Vritti, one of the introductory texts written by Adi Shankaracharya, the student is asking the teacher, so you have shown me that I am not the body, I am not the mind. All right. He says, Karamalakavat, like a fruit, like a berry on the palm of my hand. Show me what I am right now. Because body and mind, what I thought I was, this is at least perceptible to me. I know, I am very clear, I am this. now you are demonstrating or trying to show that I am actually not the body-mind. Then, what am I? As clearly as I see myself as the body-mind, at that level of clarity, please show this Atman to me, what I am. That is the challenge that the teacher of Advaita faces. And I'm firmly convinced that this is something that Advaita can answer to the satisfaction of any rational mind. This is the beauty of Advaita Vedanta, the power of Advaita. I talk to neuroscientists, philosophers in the West, here also, people who are not particularly religious or spiritual. And one beauty of Advaita Vedanta is, when I talk about Advaita to such people, if they get it, and some of them do get what I'm trying to say, they may not be convinced, they may not become Advaitins, they may not become believers or followers in this. But one thing I've always noticed, that there is no way of refuting these arguments or these pointers which Advaita uses. I remember I was sitting next to this lady who was a neuroscientist and was traveling somewhere in Europe. I think I was flying from Lisbon to Frankfurt or something like that, a transit flight. She was sitting next to me. She started asking. Later on, I realized she was striking up the conversation. She said she's afraid of flying. So whoever she sits next to, she starts talking to divert herself. So tell me about your spiritual beliefs. And I talked about Advaita Vedanta. After that, she said, I am not convinced by what you said, but I cannot find a fault in your arguments. That's a great thing. That's a very powerful thing. Becoming convinced and following this, it takes some time. But if one is not willing, but one is very sharp, one is able to understand what is being said, one will see that there is a great merit to these arguments. Sam Harris, who is, I don't know, some of you may have heard of Sam Harris. He was one of the militant atheists. And yet, in his book, Waking Up, he's like Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens. Sam Harris was considered in that league, or is considered in that league. But unlike the others, unlike Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris is interested in spirituality. He does not admit religion as such, but he's very curious, and he is an inquirer. So in his book, he says, completely against all religion, but I must admit that there are these two traditions, Advaita Vedanta of Hinduism and Dzogchen Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism. In these two traditions, there is a core of truth which I cannot deny. Anybody with some rational mind and inquiry cannot deny that there is a core of truth there which cannot be refuted. So what is this core of truth? Entirely on the basis of reason, entirely on the basis of experience, and that too available experience. I will not say that, all right, so I'm going to teach you this particular samadhi, please practice these meditations, 30 years later come back and tell me, did you realize or not? And that's a cop-out. We'll talk about Advaita on the basis of our experience right here, right now. What is this undeniable core of truth? How can we discover it? And what can it do for us right away, starting here, in our daily lives, how it can be effective for us? I was just thinking where to start, because all roads lead to Brahman, not Rome, all roads lead to Brahman, and there are many such roads in Advaita Vedanta. And all the texts, they all take you in different ways to the same teaching. The teaching itself is well known to all of us. Tattvamasi, you are that reality. You are infinite existence, consciousness, bliss. You are immortal, free, good, problem solved, goodbye. But how do you actually experience it and realize it? Then I thought, why not take the help of a great master who was right here, Vidyaranya Swami. 600 years ago, he wrote a number of books, but he's most famous, and justly so, for Panchadashi, which is 15 chapters on Advaita Vedanta. And in that book, in the very beginning, he does something dramatic. In about 8 or 9 verses, after the invocation, after Mangalacharana, the next few verses, up to verse number 10, from verse number 3 to 10 or 4 to 10, 3 to 10, there, using entirely experience and reason, he demonstrates that you are Brahman. Arguments. He demonstrates that you are Brahman. And I will today take a verse, borrow a verse from Vidyaranya Swami. The first one he uses when he starts the teaching, after the pranam to Guru and Ishta, when he starts the teaching, the first verse. We will base our inquiry today on that verse. Shabdasparshadayo vedya vaichitrya jagare prithak tato vibhakta tat samvid aikarupyana bhidyate. Incisive. I mean, if I dwelt on the implications of that, just the philosophy of that, that would be the whole lecture. But today I want to dwell on the direct experience behind it. What does it mean? It goes like this. Vidyaranya Swami says, take a look at your experience. What experience? Right now, your waking experience, presuming that you're all awake, which may not be all be true in a Vedanta class. It's very soporific. I mean, one of the ways of beating insomnia is to listen to a Vedanta lecture. I know some people use the YouTube lectures for that. Your voice is so soothing, Swami, it just Take a look at our waking experience, Jagare, in the waking state. Shabdasparshadayo vedyaha. What do we experience? We see, we hear, we smell, taste, touch. We think, we remember, we desire, we love, hate. We feel anxiety, fear. And all throughout we feel a sense of ego, I. This is our experience. A neuroscientist, Christoph Koch, who has been investigating consciousness, is the forefront of consciousness research. His latest book is The Feeling of Life Itself. So that's what he calls consciousness, the feeling of life itself. You're alive, you're feeling you're experiencing consciousness right now. Vidyaranya Swami starts there. Look at the feeling of life itself. Shabda, sparsha, adi, vedyaha. All the knowables, experienceables. All of these are coming. Thousands of experiences crowd our days. But he says, analytically, distinguish. Apart from these experiences, apart from all of them, there is a common golden thread, a common thread running through all of them. Most obvious thread, most obvious common factor. What is that? Consciousness, awareness. Just as if you look at the stage here, you see people on that, you see a carpet, you see a table and flowers and so on. And there is one thing which is constant here, the light shining upon all of them. You can change the configuration. The people will disappear, will go away, the objects may be changed, and you might have another program here, other people will come, and the light is constant. And this light is the one which illumines all of them. Whatever object is put in front of it on the stage is illumined by this light. Similarly, in the stage of our life, so many objects are there all the time. And all of them are illumined by one light, one consciousness. In Kenopanishad, it starts with Keneshitam padati preshitam mana Kena prana prathama prayiti yukta Keneshitam vachamimam vadanti chakshushrotram kaudeva yunakti. Which shining entity, Deva, illumines, enables what? Talking. What talking? This topic, the talking we are doing now. What enables us to see? What enables us to hear? What enables the prana to work? What enables thoughts in the mind? Notice the profound nature of that question. Thousands of years ago, a nameless student asks the teacher one thing. He's not asking about the optic nerves, the physiology of vision. He's not asking about how the ears work. He's not asking about psychology. He's asking he or she, whoever it is, one thing which is behind all these experiences. Basically asking about consciousness, about awareness, that which gives us these experiences. Not that it's relevant, but I think the most recent developments in robotics and in AI, computer science and all, they replicate every activity so far attributed to human minds. And they are doing it more and more, sort of scarily better and better. Computers have memories, far more accurate, far vaster than any of us. Computers have senses. I mean, you don't just have to go to a door and in the airport it will open before you. It's a kind of sensor. So computers have senses, computers have decision-making capacities. For the first time, I saw this Google car, this self-driving car in San Francisco on the roads. It's a very scary sight. There's a car coming on. Usually, sometimes there's a driver without touching the wheel. He's sitting there, and the passengers are there. But the most interesting is to see the empty car. No driver, no passenger, nicely going along next to you. Which means the computers there in that car are doing everything that a human driver is doing. Not only that, there is creativity now. Computers are making paintings. At NYU recently, they showed us, there was a panel, and they showed us a group of drawings and said, can you tell us among all these drawings, which is the one made by a machine, computer? Nobody could distinguish. They're writing short stories. And recently, I think AI won a prize in some art exhibition, to the fury of artists. Now, what is my point in all of this? My point here is that there is one thing, and only one thing, which AI, robotics, they have been unable to replicate, even begin to replicate. If you ask a computer scientist, are these machines, are these programs self-aware? They will laugh. They say there is no such thing. We don't even know where to begin. These are not. How do you know? Because we haven't programmed them. All the other things are programmed. They can do these. These are capacities programmed into them. But self-awareness, do they have the feeling of life itself, these machines? No. No. Very interesting. Every feature of the human mind is now being replicated by machines, except one, consciousness. Thousands of years ago in the Kena Upanishad, hundreds of years ago, Vidyaranya Swami, he says, consciousness is distinct from the contents of consciousness. Consciousness is distinct from the objects presented to consciousness. In all your experiences, it is this consciousness. Not only that, when you fall asleep, in deep sleep, in dream sleep, when the external world has disappeared, we have forgotten we are lying on the bed and sleeping, we dream. A dream world comes up. That's entirely different from this waking world, based on the experiences of this waking world, but it's different. And yet there is one thing common which continues in the dream world. This consciousness which you have right now, this consciousness, right now, which we are, this continues in the dream world also. That illumines the objects of the dream, which are generated by the mind. This is sort of like a virtual world, a virtual reality generated in the mind. But same consciousness continues. And when everything shuts down, no external world is experienced, no dreams are experienced, just blankness, the same consciousness continues to illumine that blankness. Next day, what's the story? Same story. A waking state, one consciousness illumining various contents coming and going. Dream state, deep sleep state, and so, Vidyaranya Swami says, and so the story of our life revolves. Day after day, very beautiful verses. Masabdi yuga masabdi, he says, Gata gammyeshu anekadha. Years, months and years roll by. Lifetimes roll by. Ages roll by. Consciousness is one and shining. Naudeti nastameti. Samvid eka swayam prabha. This one consciousness which is self-luminous, it shines. Shines, he's using the material analogy of light, but it means it's awareness. This consciousness is constant. Not only that, this consciousness has been constant in our lives from our childhood. I am not making claims about this. Let us just look into our own experience. What does it feel like? Body has changed from babyhood to childhood to teenage to middle age to old age. Body has changed so much. Mind has changed even more. Imagine the kind of mind we had as little boys or girls. What we liked, what we thought, what we loved, hated. I was at Singapore airport late in the night, 3 a.m. And this little kid with his parents was sitting cranky late in the night, and the father tried to bribe him with a chocolate. Now, his only mistake was a chocolate bar. He broke it. And it was disaster for the kid. Started screaming, yelling. Why? To his mind, everything has now been ruined because the bar is broken. You might say it's not such a tragedy, but to his mind it's a tragedy. That's the kind of mind we all had as kids. How our minds have changed, how our bodies have changed. Has the consciousness changed? Apart from body and mind, apart from mind. Isn't it the same consciousness which is experiencing that little kid's mind and today the mature mind, hopefully, today's? Yeah? Isn't it the same consciousness? It is the same consciousness. There's a little logical argument here. So no, why can't we say consciousness has changed? Well, all changes are in the body, are in the mind. Consciousness, apart from body and mind, does not change. Mrs. Swami, are you just stipulating? Should we believe you that it doesn't change? Suppose it changes. Well, suppose it changes. How will you know it? If you know some change, that knowing is what? Consciousness illumining an object. If a change is known, it must be something in the object. If it is a change in consciousness, in the subject itself, it can never be the object of knowledge. Vedyaha. If it can never be known, a change in consciousness, suppose there's a change in consciousness changes somehow. If it's at all possible, we'll never know it. If you can never know of it, why even speak about it? Consciousness does not change. You are that. Remember, we are talking all the time talking about you. That's one beautiful thing about Vedanta. It's about the most important, nicest subject in the world. I, me, myself. My favorite subject in the world. So we are talking about you. You are that same consciousness which you were in babyhood, childhood, teenage, middle age, now whatever your age is, and it will continue to be the same. I heard a beautiful story. We have this young man in our ashram, Patrick. He is a great admirer of Anandamayi Ma. Have you heard of Anandamayi Ma, who was there in the north of India in the Yes, oh, she has a picture of Anandamayi Ma right there. So very beautiful story. Paramahamsa Yogananda, who established a self-realization fellowship here, he went back to India for a short while at a visit. In one of the visits, he met Anandamayi Ma. And the story is very, very cute, you know. He gets down from the car to in Anandamayi Ma's ashram, and she would always behave like a little girl. So she ran up to him saying, "Father, where were you all these years? I've been waiting for you." So he was taken aback a little bit. He had never met her earlier. Then he said, "Please tell me something about yourself." And she said, "What is there to tell? I was always like this. I was always like this. And then I was born, but I was just still the same. And then I was a little girl, but I was still the same. And now I am this woman, I am still the same. And in future, I will still be the same." What is she talking about? Consciousness, which we all have. It is a statement we can all make. Earlier, I was a little boy or a girl, but I was the same. I am this awareness which experienced the little boy and or girl's mind body. Then a teenager. Now this, and later on something else. Even when old age comes, maybe Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, the consciousness is not dimmed? No. That consciousness which was aware of a sharp mind, of a sharp memory, now is aware of a failing memory and a slowing down mind. Consciousness shines. As consciousness, you are perfectly all right. You always were. Even death does not dim it. So, death comes, body goes, consciousness remains. So are we supposed to believe it, Swami, because you're saying it sternly with a lot of force? How do you know? Because any mainstream idea in medicine, in science basically, is that when the body dies, body is destroyed, the brain is destroyed with it, brain and nervous system. Consciousness is also gone. But follow this carefully. There is a logical gap in this kind of thinking. Right now, when you interact with anybody else or when you consider yourself, you think you're interacting with a person, like a mind, consciousness, in a body. And When the body dies, we say, oh, that person is gone. How do you know? You know one thing for certain, that the body is gone. That's sure. When that person was alive, you did not consider that person to be only the body. When that body dies, you say the person is gone. That you're considering the person to be only the body. Did you follow that jump in thinking? I see the body, but I don't think you are just this body. I think you are the person in that who's interacting through that medium of that body. That's what common sense. We think like that about everybody. When the body is gone, how do I know that software within, that personality within, that is gone? How do I know? There's no access to it anymore because the body is gone, obviously. But how do I know it's destroyed? When it was alive, the body was alive, I did not confuse it with the person, with the conscious being, sentient being there. Now when the body is gone, why should I say the sentient being is gone? Not only that, a more powerful argument, just now the whole topic we are having a discussion at NIMHANS. It is what is called the hard problem of consciousness. There is increasing awareness in the world of neuroscience, consciousness studies, philosophy of mind, that you cannot reduce consciousness to the brain. I'm not going to go into that. It is a big topic, but you just Google it, the hard problem of consciousness. More and more people, very reputed scholars in the philosophy of mind, in consciousness studies, neuroscience, they are sort of coming to this conclusion or this awakening. You cannot reduce consciousness to just brain states or just neurons. This irreducibility of consciousness. In that case, when the brain dies, body dies, how will you say the consciousness is dead? This consciousness, it continues. Through waking, dreaming, deep sleep, from babyhood, childhood, middle age, old age, it is one. And like Anandamayi Ma, we can say, I am the same. I was the same, I am the same, I will always be the same. Ever shining. Vidyaranya Swami says, this is a sun which neither rises nor sets, always shines. Naudeti nastameti. Samvid eka esha swayam prabha. Not only that. Think about it. Apart from the body, the senses, suppose I do not see anything, hear anything, smell, taste, touch anything. Suppose I have all my memories shut down. I don't remember anything. The mind, I'm not allowing any thoughts. Suppose the mind is stilled. Consciousness is shining. That consciousness, what does it need? You can check yourself. Simulate it. An absolute stillness of body, mind right now at this moment. No thought allowed, no memory, nothing. No sensory input. By itself, this light of consciousness, what does it need? What is it demanding? Nothing. What is it afraid of? Consciousness by itself, awareness, no mind allowed there. Mind is not allowed. What is it afraid of? Is it a man or woman or one of the 23 genders recognized in New York State legally? See, just as an aside, I have all sympathy for the new gender revolution which is sweeping across the United States, and no doubt it will come here also. But my point is, it is going in the direction of the body. Advaita Vedanta has no problem at all with any gender preference, but Advaita Vedanta goes in the other direction, towards this consciousness which is impersonal and beyond gender, beyond the gendered self. What is it afraid of? Is it a man? Is it a woman? Any other gender? No. This consciousness by itself is same in everybody. This is where Sankhya and Advaita part ways. Sankhya says there's a separate consciousness in everybody. Schrödinger, he is reputed to have said consciousness is that singular for which there is no plural. Why would you say that? Aren't we all different? Yes, different as bodies, different as minds, different as body minds. But the one light which illumines this body mind, puts on this mask of this mind and this body and says, I am Sarvapriyananda. That consciousness by itself is not Sarvapriyananda. That consciousness by itself is not a mind, by itself is not a body. In fact, the word personality means mask. I was so happy to discover persona. The Greeks, when they would perform in the amphitheaters, they would have, drama, the Greek tragedies and all, big masks they would wear. And those masks had holes in front. And they would speak their lines through those holes. That's why sona, the sound. Persona means mask. We do so much personality development, mask development. It's a really good word. Mind is a mask. Body-mind is a mask. What is the mask for? Then what am I without the body-mind? Underneath the mask, what am I? I am awareness. And so is everybody else. And it's the same awareness. Krishna says in the Gita, Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu, vibhaktam iva cha sthitam. I am one and undivided in all beings, as if divided. Shining in different minds, I appear as different personalities. We are, as awareness, one reality. All of us, we are one, literally one. Not in the sense of all our brothers and sisters, that's a nice sentiment. But literally one entity, appearing as many, and Ashtavakra says, Mai ananta mahambodau ascharyam jiva vichaya udyanti gnanti khelanti pravishanti swabhavata. I am an infinite ocean of awareness, and in me arise all these amazing sentient beings, jiva. They're like waves arising in this ocean. What do? They arise, they're born. They play around. I was with this monk learning Ashtavakra in the Himalayas, one old Punjabi sadhu. So how he explained it? He says, all these waves, the jivas are arising in this one notion of consciousness, which I am. He was explaining in Hindi. Udyanti, janm lete hain, they are born. Khelanti, he says, love, marriage. Then gnanti, fight, divorce. Fight, quarrel, war. At domestic level and international level also, same thing. Gnanti. And then what is the final condition of these jivas? Pravishanti. They all subside back into the ocean of awareness, which I am. Swabhavata, by their own nature. There was this person not so well known in India, Alan Watts. He was in the United States long time before my time, but very popular apparently. I've met some Americans who were very enamored of his talks. Somebody said he was part philosopher and part pirate. So he was very influenced by Vedanta and Buddhism, Zen, the Zen kind of Buddhism. But I love there's a little book which is really worth reading. It's called, the name of the book is unforgettable. It's called The Book. And the subtitle is The Taboo Against Knowing Who You Are. The taboo against knowing who you are. At least the first 2-3 chapters are very good. After that, I think he sort of loses the plot. But what is this life? It's like a children's story he tells, but it's so beautiful for grown-up people also. He says, God existed in the beginning. Literally Upanishad. Sadeva Samya Idamagra Asit. Before his entire universe was created, that Sat, one being alone was there. He says God alone existed from eternity to eternity. But eternity is a very long time, so God got bored. Yeah. And God decided to play. But who will God play with? Because there's nobody else other than God. So God thought about this problem for a long time. Whom will I play with? And then because God is very clever, God came up with a solution. That God pretended to be not God. Now there are two, God and not God. Now God can play, but now there came a problem. Because God is really good at what God does. So when he pretended to be not God, he totally forgot he was God. And now what's going on is God is playing with not God, and this not God is searching for who he is. Who that God, not God is. And this is the game of life that's going on. Alan Watts. Not me. A beautiful story, right? This fits more with Kashmiri Shaivism than Advaita Vedanta. Shiva, who is Jiva? Sri Ramakrishna used to say, in bondage, in ignorance, in the bondage, it is Jiva. Freed from bondage, it is Shiva. Which one? The same one. The same one. There's no two. You, that one consciousness. And the Kashmiri Shaivas are even more bold than Advaita Vedanta. We say that I am under spell of Maya. We have to overcome ignorance. But the way I put it, journeys from ignorance to knowledge. You overcome ignorance by knowledge of realization, I am Brahman. That is the spiritual journey. Kashmiri Shaivas are even more bold. They say, what ignorance? Can Shiva be under ignorance? You are Shiva. Shiva is only playing. As long as you are playing, you remain as Jiva. When you want to be free of this Jivahood, you stop playing. You might say, that's easier said than done. I want to stop playing, but I'm not realizing that I'm Shiva. This is, no, Shiva is now playing at being a sadhaka. Now Shiva wants to be a sadhaka. I want to realize who I am. The moment you decide enough of being a sadhaka, one sadhu said in Uttarakhand, कितने दिन साधक रहोगे महात्मा जी सिद्ध नहीं होना है How long will you remain a sadhak? I remember Swami Suhitanandaji, he told us this story. There was this gentleman, I can tell the name, he has passed away now, Badal Babu. He used to go to Swami Premeshanandaji, a great disciple of the Holy Mother Sharda Devi, who was regarded in our order and by many as an enlightened person in his lifetime, Swami Premeshanandaji. And this Badal Babu, whom I saw in his old age, he was a young student at that time, young man. He would go to Swami Premeshananda, and he loved going to monks, visiting different places, finding out many stories about sadhakas and spiritual practitioners, and he would go and tell those stories to Swami Premeshananda. I met this sadhu in Himalaya, he was like this, he did this. One day, Swami Premeshanandaji said to him, I'll quote the Bengali and translate. Said affectionately, he said, Ore Badla, Badal, he's affectionately Badla. Shara Jagottai Jodi Ramkeshto hai, tate tori baki ar amari baki. If tomorrow, why you're talking about one monk? Tomorrow, if whole world becomes Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, everybody is Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, except me, except you, then what have I gained or you gained? We have to realize this for ourselves. We have to realize this for ourselves. It's wonderful to read books, wonderful to know the stories of great sadhakas. We filled our hearts with devotion, reverence, inspiration. But at one point, I have to say, this is true. I say this on my own authority. I say because I have seen. That you need not say to anybody, at least to oneself, one should be able to say this. So that stage can come. Advaita Vedanta says, it is right here, right now. You are that. Not as the body, not as the mind, ever-changing body, ever-changing mind, but as the light which illumines this body-mind. And that light is the light common to all bodies and minds. And one step further, I will not go there. All right, let me go there. I'll just mention it quickly and then stop. We'll take questions. Very beautiful portion in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which Sri Krishna strongly advises, heavily advertises as the king of secrets. I will tell you the king of secrets. I will tell you the king of all knowledge, Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya. You can imagine how excited Arjuna will be. At last, 8 chapters have gone by, now he's coming to the point. Tell me, question, taking out notebook. Krishna says, all of these beings, I pervade. In all of them I exist as consciousness. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina. By my unmanifested form. The only unmanifest, truly unmanifest is consciousness. Because everything else is an object to consciousness. As this unmanifest consciousness which you perceive yourself. Unmanifest means the pure subject. Which you know, not perceive, but you know intuitively. I am that. Everyone knows it that way. And that consciousness, Krishna says, I am consciousness in all these beings. Step 1. In all beings, I am that one consciousness. We are all one consciousness. And that then next, he changes in a dramatic movement. In one of the most dramatic parts of the Bhagavad Gita, next sentence it says, Nacha matsthani bhutani. No, next he says that it's not that I am in them. They are in me. Matsthani bhutani, he says. It's not that I am in, all these beings are there and I am in them. He says, no. All beings are in me. I exist as consciousness and all these beings are in me. The second stage. Think about it. We think that we are consciousness, there is a mind, there is a body, and outside the body there is a world. Through consciousness and mind and body, I am experiencing the world. That's what we feel. But think a little more. I am consciousness and there is a mind. How do I know that? Is the mind something apart from consciousness? Have we an experience of my consciousness ending and a mind beginning? Or do we experience a mind in consciousness? Like in a dream. I say I'm standing here looking at a person. But when I wake up, I realize I, this space, and the person all were in my mind. Similarly, isn't it right now? Is it that there is a body, there is a mind, and behind that mind there is a light of consciousness? Or you are consciousness, in you the consciousness you experience a mind and a body, and through that body mind, in that same consciousness you experience a world? It's a very different way of perceiving, different way of understanding this very experience. And then Krishna makes the third statement, even more dramatic statement, totally reversing and taking back what he has said now. Nacha matsthani bhutani pashya me yogam aishwaryam. I've forgotten the exact words. Nacha matsthani bhutani pashya me yogam aishwaram. Look at this yoga, the maya, this glorious maya of Ishvara, of consciousness. It is not that all beings are in consciousness. Rather, consciousness alone exists. Again, we can understand easily with the dream example. You are the dreamer. Now you can say, step one, all those people in the dream I saw, I was in all of them. It's correct. But a better statement is, no, not that I was in all of them. All the beings, living and non-living I saw in my dream, they were all in me. Step two. Step three, actually they were not in me. I alone appeared as them. Isn't it true? Actually, were there human beings, cats and dogs in my mind? No. The mind alone appeared as all of that in the dream. Similarly, consciousness alone appears as human beings, as sky and earth, as the worm and the blue whale, as quarks and quasars. This is the grand, incredible claim of Advaita Vedanta, that it is all consciousness through and through. In fact, consciousness alone, here I'm using consciousness, of course, in the sense of Chit or Chaitanya. That alone shines as this entire universe. This is the Advaita. The claim is, this is true right now. Whether you know it or you do not know it. Whether you accept it or do not accept it. I'm just repeating what I heard from a sadhu in Gangotri. He looked at me and said, he was teaching Ashtavakra Gita. He said, ये बहुत उल्टा दर्शन है महात्मा जी. This is a very paradoxical philosophy, Mahatma ji. तुम जानो या ना जानो, तुम मानो या ना मानो, तुम ही राम. Whether you know it or not, whether you accept it or not, you are Rama, that is, you are pure consciousness. That which appears as Rama or Krishna, that which appears as Saguna Brahman, Ishvara, Bhagavan and avatars, and appears as sentient beings, and appears as this entire earth and the stars and galaxies, it is one unlimited luminosity, which you are. Good. I think we'll take up questions now. The way we will do it is that there are going to be volunteers, Professor Shastri. There are going to be volunteers. Can the volunteers raise their hands where they are? Yes. So they will take the microphone to you, tell us your name, and let's do it one by one. Is there somebody on this side? So anybody, let's have a question there. Then you can select the person to whom you will take the microphone. Yes. Just pass the microphone to that lady there. Tell us your name and ask the question. Make it brief, to the point. There's an art of asking a question.
Namaste. I'm Indira Kadambi. I'm a Bharatanatyam artist. I've been very inspired by your talks, and the past few months, I've been following your talks. And that inspired me to do a production lately, Koham, and which I have shared in the emails. Perhaps you have not seen that. I guess you're busy. And what I have is like the dream state, awakening state. In dream state, it's always like it's so beautiful. I mean, sometimes it's very sad, happy, and you take different forms, your different things in dream state, right? But why is it in awakening state, you always go back to the same family and same problems? And
Yeah. So this is one difference between the dream state and the waking state. The stability, I will say, I'm sorry to do this, give air quotes, quote unquote, stability of the waking state. First of all, in the waking state, nothing is stable. Everything is changing moment to moment. But you're right. When we wake up, we go back to the same body, the same bed I'm lying down in, same room, same people. Dreams, I seem to recall multiple dreams in multiple contexts, right? So this seems to be one difference. Now here's a lot of subtle philosophy here. There is one group of Advaitins, the mainstream Advaitins, who will agree with you. And they'll say, yes, the waking state and the dream state are different. The waking state is vyavaharika, transactional reality. This reality we are inhabiting. The dream state is not equal to this. You experience it, but it's more like a fiction, a movie, pratibhasika. It's an appearance. And there is an absolute reality, paramarthika, Brahman, which is this one consciousness in which the vyavaharika appears, and in the vyavaharika, in the dreams, pratibhasika appears. The Brahman is the ultimate reality. Rope is the vyavaharika reality. Snake is pratibhasika reality. We are not denying the snake, but it's not equal to the rope. We are not denying the rope, but it's not equal to Brahman. And you are Brahman. So this is the traditional method of teaching Advaita Vedanta. This is called Shrishti Drishti Vada. World has been created. You are not imagining the world. It is not subjective idealism. Those who are trained in philosophy, it's not Berkeleyan subjective idealism. Why Berkeley? More than 1500 years before Berkeley, the Buddhist Vijnanavadis, they had a fully developed theory of subjective idealism. That's why Shankara attacks the Vijnanavadi Buddhists. That Advaita Vedanta is not subjective idealism. So this waking state is not equal to a dream state. This waking state, as you said, your argument, that's one of the arguments. I come back to a stable reality. So waking state is at least more real than the dream state, not equal. You can hear in my voice some but is there. It's coming. Let me just also add here a very beautiful article, essay published by Professor Arindam Chakravarti. Idealist refutations of idealism. Idealist refutations of idealism. He asks this very interesting question. Why Shankara attacks the Vijnanavadi Buddhists? They seem to be saying almost the same thing. Why does he attack so sharply, vehemently, page after page after page? And closer to our day, why does Immanuel Kant attack Berkeleyan subjective idealism? And he shows almost the same arguments. Shankara 1000 years before Kant and Immanuel Kant, when they are attacking the subjective idealist, they are using nearly the same arguments. In some cases, Professor Chakravarti shows actually Shankara's arguments were much sharper than Kant's. Now the but. But waking is also equal to dream. Let me refute that argument you said. My waking is real, dream is unreal. Because in dream, I have various kinds of dreams. Every time I come back to the waking. But that's only in the waking state. If we are dreams within dreams, in the dream state, I would say that I have so many dreams, but I come back to this reality. But that reality is also negated when you wake up. In a dream, we never feel, I'm having so many dreams, different bodies, different... No, each dream feels like a new waking. Similarly, this waking also feels like it's stable, but it's not. It is actually, from this waking's perspective and the dream's internal perspective, they are not very different at all. This is the argument used by Gaudapada Acharya in the Mandukya Karika, the second chapter, Vaitathya Prakarana, chapter on the falsity of the world. He uses the dream analogy to deconstruct this waking reality. And there he shows every argument we have for distinguishing dream from waking is fallacious. He attacks every argument systematically. Swami Nikhilanandaji, who was also in New York in the Vedanta, in the Ramakrishna Vivekananda Society there, His book, his translation of the Mandukya Karika is an appendix. You should see the appendix. In the appendix, he says, there are those who say dreams and waking are different. Waking is more real, dreams are less real. That's a common sense approach. And common sense, that's one mainstream of Advaita also. But then he says, what Gaudapada does, takes up 10 arguments to show that waking is real, dream is not real. I mean, dream is a dream only, waking is waking, they're different. And takes up 10 arguments and then attacks and refutes all 10. By the end of it, you feel creepy. Is this a dream or is this waking, you feel? Ye sach ya wo sach. The Chinese philosopher, Chuang-Tzu, a well-known story in Chinese philosophy, that he was dreaming that he was a butterfly, he woke up. Then he thought, am I a philosopher who was dreaming of a butterfly and is woken up now? Or was I a butterfly now who's dreaming of being a philosopher? Question from that side, anybody? Have you given the microphone to somebody from that side?
My name is Ram Kumar. I just want to...
Where are you?
Sorry, here.
Yes.
This is, you are a teacher of Advaita Vedanta as well as you have mastered Zen Buddhism and all.
I haven't. I know just a little bit of Advaita and very little of other traditions.
But Shankara struggled to stop all Buddhist knowledge and revived Sanatana Dharma and our Advaita Vedanta here. But there is still a feeling of fancy for Zen Buddhism and all. I want you to give us the tonic to resist that.
Okay. In fact, you are right. Just a few weeks ago, one Swami, a traditional monk, scholarly monk from Benares, he called me. Thanks to modern technology, you can call on phone, WhatsApp. So he called me. And what has happened was he was teaching Vedanta, and one of his students, traditional students there, said, you are saying this, but Swami Sarvapriyanandaji said like this. So, who is this fellow, Swami Sarvapriyanandaji? He's on YouTube, he has said. So then he started watching. And then he called me, and he said, I really like what you're doing, and you're doing wonderful work there in the West. But may I, if you permit me, may I point out this two problems in the way you approach Advaita Vedanta. See, the way you approach Advaita Vedanta is heavily influenced by Buddhism and Sankhya. First of all, by Sankhya. This strong distinction between drashta and drishya. I am the seer, this is the seen. One sadhu in Uttarakhand said, ये जो drashta drishya करते रहते हैं ना, ये कच्चे वेदांती हैं. Those who keep talking about I am the drashta, this is drishya, these are unripe Vedanti, meaning me. So, he's right. Advaita is not about making the difference between seer and the seen. Advaita is about oneness. Is about one Brahman appearing as many. To come to that position, Shankaracharya himself makes it very clear in Aparokshanubhuti. He says, makes it very clear that this distinction between seer and seen is temporary. This is not our goal. We have done this to find out who we are, this one consciousness, and then absorb everything back into consciousness. Let's see that one consciousness alone appears as all. Did you see what I did today? There's one consciousness, body is changing, mind is changing, waking, dreaming, deep sleep are going, life and death are coming and going, one consciousness remaining separate from all. And then what did I have to do? That Swami told me. See, then you have to work double hard to establish oneness, because you have strongly established difference. And so that's one side of it. And the second side of it, he said, the Buddhist influence, it is true that Advaita Vedanta teaches the falsity of the world, Jagat Mithya. But that is something which was developed in very strong debate with the Buddhists. So this Jagat Mithyatva is not a central teaching of Upanishads or Gita. The Brahma Satya, that is the important teaching. And Jiva is Brahman, that is the important teaching. That identity, Mahavakya says that. Jagat Mithya is a very important teaching, but it's like a logical consequence of these arguments. So yes, you are right, sir. In my defense, I will say the reason I approach it this way is it's reasonable. It is analytical. It appeals to the skeptical mind. It appeals to somebody, as you said, the Vedic idea to strengthen that. But suppose someone does not have Shraddha in Vedas. How to create that Shraddha? And I have seen in New York, many people who are not interested in religion, spirituality, but they have some hunger. They are attracted by Advaitic teachings, if you put it in a very analytic way. And once they are attracted, I found automatically, without me having to say anything, bhakti develops. And many of them have taken mantra diksha, number of people. Many of them are doing sadhana. But they started with an intellectual curiosity. At that level, you have to proceed entirely on reason. And Sankhya is highly reason-based. So is, say, the kind of Buddhism which I use is Madhyamaka Buddhism, Nagarjuna, the Tibetan Buddhism type. That I have had the luck to study with some good professors. So yes, you have to use them, but that is not the goal. Not Shunyavada, nor also Prakriti Purusha. That is not the ultimate goal. Ultimate goal is Brahman of the Vedas, of the Upanishads. You're right. Somebody from that side should speak. Have you given the microphone to somebody?
Namaste, good evening. It's a tremendous honor to be here to attend your beautiful lectures. I've been a strong, staunch devotee of yours, following your YouTube lectures for over the years.
Tell us
My
your
name is
name.
Geeta Srinivasan. So this lectures I hear again and again, and I'm able to understand that we are all Brahman, we are all universal consciousness. I mean, that thought is steeped into my mind very strongly. But how do I translate it into my real life, in the sense, how do you propose I live my life,
Yes.
Considering the fact that we are all one? Because in reality, in practical reality, unfortunately, when this world seems so real to me right now, I'm gripped with all kinds of anxieties, fears, and the distinction and all that. So what is your proposal? How do we live our life? Because right now I'm not realized. I'm still doing my sadhana to get there. It might take time.
Right.
It can happen anytime.
Right.
And that was the first question. And the second question,
Hold on to that. That's a very important question. I think many people have that question. So let me just answer that one first. Yes, I'm glad you raised that question, because the topic is Advaita in daily life. So what we have done only half of the subject. Now I am this awareness, and mind is there, body is there. As she said, we come back into the same world. This world is also appearing. I understand. There is this awareness. In some sense, essentially, I am this awareness. In this awareness, bodies, minds, world, all appears. All right. This is where we are. And we are that effortlessly. You don't have to do anything about it. One has to realize and note it. Now, how do you live this? And one must live it. In fact, trying to live it in this world is a very powerful sadhana. In Vedanta, we say Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Now, Shravana means hearing these truths, studying it systematically. You just take up the text, listen to the teacher, understand the basic teaching behind all these texts. All of these texts are saying the same thing, what we talked about today. Manana means whatever doubts come up, one should be able to overcome those doubts. One should be able to have clear answers. I have faced questions from people representing different religions, different philosophical perspectives, atheists. We are actually looking forward to a dialogue with Sam Harris next year. So there are questions with very powerful, very sharp intellects, neuroscientists, psychiatrists, all kinds of questions have come. And to my satisfaction, I don't know about the others, but as far as I'm concerned, I have found that all these questions have been tackled in some form or the other in the Advaita tradition. There are answers to all of these. You don't even have to know all the texts and all the questions to find the answers. Once you have got a clarity, you look back into that clarity and you'll get an answer to that question. One sadhu said, what is the importance of spiritual practice after realization? He says, multiple reasons are there why one should continue spiritual practice, at least until the level of Jivan Mukti is reached. So there is a gap between what is called Tattva Jnana and Jivan Mukti. Realization of the truth, actual breakthrough enlightenment, and then full-blown Jivan Mukti, fully living it, getting the results of that. So to bridge that gap, sadhana, spiritual practice is highly recommended. There's a whole book about this called Jivan Mukti Viveka. Revered Harshanji Maharaj translated it. It's been published. So it talks about that. What should you do? And that's, of course, not just after listening or hearing. Actually, after realizing I am Brahman. After that also one should do. But it gives us clues about how we can live now. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks this question to Krishna. If I'm enlightened, what will it be like? The fully enlightened person. He calls it Sthita Prajna instead of Jivan Mukti. Fully enlightened person. Notice the words are so precise. You said, I understand it. But in the midst of all these pressures and all, how will I live it? The understanding gets shaken easily. So Sthita means unshaken, stable. Prajna means illumination. Once this illumination, enlightenment is stable, how will the life be? That's the question he asks. And there Shankaracharya comments, not only is he talking about the life of such an enlightened person, fully enlightened, Jivan Mukta Sthita Prajna, but he's talking about us. Those who have studied Vedanta for a long time, very interested, want to become enlightened, there are these advanced practices which are given there. Yani eva kritarthasya lakshanani, tani eva sadhakasya sadhanani. So whatever are the characteristics of an enlightened person, Jivan Mukta, those are practices for the rest of us. He says yatna sadhyatvat, because that level can be reached, that attainment is possible by practicing these things. Now, direct answer to your question. What is it that we do? That third part, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. The Nididhyasana is a very interesting thing. It means meditation, Vedantic meditation. But what kind of meditation is it? It can be the traditional meditation sitting with eyes closed or with eyes open in the midst of action. And that's highly recommended. In the midst of life itself, can we remain centered in this Vedantic realization? One of the most favorite shlokas in the Bhagavad Gita, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi, we always chant it before eating. It's not a food shloka. Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. The word Brahma karma samadhi is a word which designates a person, one who sees Brahman or who cultivates seeing Brahman in the midst of every action. That person realizes Brahman. So, what are the things that we need to do? It's one of the subjects I'm going to talk about a couple of weeks hence in Singapore. So, I have a whole speech about it, but I will not give you that whole thing here. But there's just the essentials. One is, be centered in that reality once in a while. So, that's the first thing that Krishna teaches. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan manogatan. Whatever are the desires in the mind, this is talking about shutting down the mind in samadhi, in actual meditation. Even if we cannot attain samadhi, in deep meditation, stay with that realization, stay with that understanding. For the fully enlightened one, even that is not required. There is something, there's a technical term called Badha Samadhi. Badha Samadhi means the fully enlightened one does not have to sit with eyes closed, shut out the world, shut down the senses, shut down the mind, and stay with that, I am that luminosity, Brahman. Does not have to do that. With eyes open, walking, talking, engaging with the world, the whole world is an appearance in consciousness. It's very clear to that person. So it's not a person anymore. The person is Brahman now. So that's the first thing. Be centered once in a while. Even before you get swept up in the activities of the world. That's why the simple practice of meditation morning and evening is very good. What I'm saying here from an Advaitic perspective applies to the Bhakti perspective also. So once in a while, stay with God or stay with your real self, Brahman. The second thing is, at the level of the mind, Dukkheshu anudvigna mana, Sukheshu vigata spriya. Now, if I am this luminous Brahman, what is the mind to me? An object like this. Sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes it's clear. But it's an object, it's not me. Therefore, Dukkheshu anudvigna mana. In the midst of sorrows, in the midst of sufferings. So that means sorrow and suffering will keep coming even to the enlightened person. And actually when we see the lives of people who are holy, enlightened, you see so many troubles they have to face, maybe more than others. So they keep coming. But the difference is at the level of the mind, now the mind is serene. Anudvigna mana, not restless, not upset. if things do not go well, if things become unpleasant, physical illness, behavior of others, climate, economic problem, whatever it is becoming unpleasant, anudvignamana. How can you be anudvignamana at the level of the mind if this unpleasant thing happens? I am the witness consciousness. I am not the mind. This clarity will calm down the mind. It's the most powerful antidote to a restless mind. Sukheshu vigataspriya. When nice things happen, what we normally try to do is we try to hold on to it. Thirst is there. Spriya means thirst. I want to hold on to this nice person, nice food, nice job, nice environment, nice movie, whatever it is, I want to hold on to it, prolong it, get more of it. That thirst also goes away. Because both this miserable thing and the pleasant thing are appearances in the same consciousness. So that sameness comes in good and bad. In the bad, it will be not so bad. In the good, nothing particularly good. Actual experience. I met one of our monks in Uttarkashi. He and I and other monks, we were begging for our food every day in the ashrams there. There's a place where monks are fed, roti dal. And then, 2-3 weeks later, the same monk and I were in a 5-star hotel in Calcutta. Why? Not that we had gone for a 5-star hotel for lunch. Microsoft had invited computer departments of all colleges for some event to promote their products or whatever it was, some Microsoft education program. So every college had sent people from the computer department. Now this monk, I and another Swami, we went from our college's computer department in Bengaluru to attend that conference. That's why I was at, there's a full explanation why I was in a 5-star hotel with that monk. But while sitting there, I asked that monk, now you are having lunch in a 5-star hotel. 2 weeks back, you were begging for your food in Uttarkashi. How do you feel? He said, look, that was not so bad, this is not so great. I said, Maharaj, Swamiji, you have said something great to me today. Look at all these other people who are invited from different colleges. They're sitting here. For them, they are in a lecturer's salary, in a computer teacher's salary from the schools and colleges. They can never afford to come and eat in a 5-star hotel. So they have come here. This will be the stuff of stories they will tell back home for days to come. I saw this happened, that happened, what all I saw. And if one day, they are like you, they are sent out, you are thrown out of your job, no home, no family, you go and beg for food from street to street in the Himalayas. What will be their mental state? Breakdown, complete breakdown. So this is being centered in a spiritual state that from that particular perspective, 5-star hotel, not so great. And begging for food in the streets of Uttarkashi, not so bad at all. So this is dukkheshu anudvignamana, sukheshu vigataspriya. And at the level of our day-to-day activities, ya sarvatra nabhinandati nadveshti tat prapya shubhashubham. In our day-to-day activities, what is the reaction? The reaction is happiness and joy when pleasant things happen to me. Misery and cursing and bitterness when unpleasant things happen to me. Both of this you can give up from that perspective. I am the witness consciousness. But that must feel real to you. See, the problem is, they say in Uttarakhand, paroksh gyan, aparoksh vyavahar ko nahi kaat sakta hai. Indirect knowledge cannot cut down your direct experience of life. I directly feel I am this body. I feel the hunger here. I feel the problem here with the behavior of others or something. This is direct experience, I think. And what I have read, heard, studied and understood to some extent, it's very indirect. That indirect knowledge is not powerful enough to cut out, sweep out this direct experience. This must be aparoksha anubhuti. Then from that aparoksha anubhuti perspective, as this awareness, I can throw light on what is happening in the mind, in the world outside, and I can have samatva buddhi, a kind of serenity and evenness. But this can be practiced on a day-to-day basis. So 3 things I've told you. What is the day-to-day basis? First of all, this understanding of Vedanta we have got, whatever we have got till now, let us center ourselves in it, morning and evening. That is close to the samadhistha avastha. Then having centered, see the monks, they put it so nicely. One sadhu said, दिन में एक बार देख लो वस्तु को कैसा है वो. Once in a while, in a day, settle down quietly and take a look at yourself. If you are a devotee of God, take a look at your beloved Krishna, Gopala. If you are in a Vedantic path, Advaita Vedanta, take a look at yourself, not mirror. Not even mind. Not bothered with body, not bothered with the mind. That which reveals body-mind to me. That unlimited awareness, which the Upanishads and Gita and all this sing glories about. I am that. Take a look. Is it real? Does it feel real? Stay there. Then next, in the middle of activities in the world, at the level of the mind, dukkheshu anudvignamana, as bad things happen, as challenges come. World will throw challenges. Don't worry about it. World is going to give you enough opportunity for practice. She's innocently nodding there. But enough opportunity for practice means all sorts of problems will keep coming in life. But take them as opportunities to check, is my mind unruffled, calm, in the midst of suffering? In the midst of joy, there's spriha, thirst is not there. Grab, hold on. One Buddhist teacher put it nicely, let it come, let it be, let it go. Can I do that internally? Don't tell guests. Do that internally. Can I be calm? One beautiful story I read about Swami Abhayanandaji, Bharat Maharaj. Very well named, Abhayananda, fearless. So one story I read about him, he was in Mayavati ashram. Mayavati means the ashram established by Swami Vivekananda in the mountains there. I have to qualify that. Once I was coming down from that Mayavati ashram, I was standing in a station, and one gentleman came and asked, "Aap kahan se hain? Where are you from?" I said, "I'm coming from Mayavati ashram." "Oh, unka ashram bhi hai?" This is a place in the Champavat, the area where Jim Corbett hunted for tigers and all that. So that area, in the Kumaon. We have a very beautiful ashram there, established by Swami Vivekananda himself, by his disciples, but he was the spirit behind it. Now, Swami Abhayananda, one day he was walking down. At that time, tigers were there. Even now, leopards are there. The full-blown Royal Bengal tigers were there at that time. He was walking down, and suddenly one tiger crossed the road in front of him and turned and looked at him. You know what the Swami's first reaction was? He put his hand in the coat he was wearing, scrolled up there, and over his heart. Has my heartbeat increased? No. All right, then it's fine. His only worry was, am I worried? Even instantaneous reaction on seeing the tiger, no worry, absolute calmness. And the tiger also was not worried, it walked away. So luckily. Dukkheshu anudvignamana, sukheshu vigatas priyo. Oh, how beautiful it must be to have a mind like that. Atman, we all are Atman, but to get a mind like that. And then, in the midst of action, day-to-day action, when good and bad things keep happening, detachment. Na abhinandanti, na dveshti. Don't become overexcited that this is something wonderful, this must go on, and or becoming attached to something or somebody, or rejecting, hating, becoming angry with some. The person who hates and becomes angry also will become attached deeply. The person who is detached can deal with affection, compassion, understanding with everybody in every situation. So these three things, if we can practice, being centered, I am the Atman, dekh lo ek bar, kya hai? And the second, serenity of mind in ups and downs. And the third, this detachment in day-to-day activities. This is a good practice. In fact, I want to mention here, for those who enjoy Advaita Vedanta, actually I'm talking about Nididhyasana. This is normally not understood as Nididhyasana. Only in one place, Adi Shankaracharya, commenting on a strange, rather interesting passage in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Normally we talk about Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, hearing, contemplating, meditating. There, in that portion, the Brihadaranyaka, it is the same thing is said as Pandityam, Balyam, Maunam. There are 3 stages when you want to cultivate Vedanta. Pandityam means, literally it means scholarship, so we can connect it with Shravanam, with hearing. Suppose it's almost the same thing. But the next part, Maunam is silence, we can connect with Nididhyasana meditation. But the next one is little confusing. Balyam, what does Balyam mean? Everybody will say childlike, and that's a normal interpretation. Balasya bhava, Balyam. Shankaracharya says, Natu balasya bhava, balasya bhava. Bala, strength. Strength, from that comes Balyam. Cultivate strength. And there he says, this knowledge which you have studied in Advaita Vedanta, use it in your day-to-day activities. Try to live up to it. That will develop your strength. From there will come silence later on. Yes. So this whole of life becomes a school to help us in attaining Jivan Mukti. Very good question.
This can be done on our own, or do we need the guidance of a guru also?
Guru, if you have got, very good, but it's always recommended, but your mind becomes your guru, basically. Questions? Thank you. This side, somebody?
Namaste, Swamiji. My name is Vani Anur. I came and met you yesterday. My question is, I can perceive kind of a consciousness that I'm aware and all that, but at death, everything comes to an end, and how do I imagine that it continues after death? It's like...
Did I not answer this? Do you think I answered this? Do you think so? Many people are confused. Did you? I hope this is being recorded. It'll be, if it's there, available on YouTube later on. Look carefully. I have answered this. What the question is, all this is very nice, I'm consciousness and all that, but when the body dies, consciousness will be gone. Then what happened? How do we know that consciousness is gone when the body dies? How do we even know that the mind is gone when the body dies? How do we know? The presumption that the mind and consciousness are gone when the body dies, you're already assuming something called materialist reductionism. That consciousness is nothing but brain activity. One philosopher called it nothing buttery. Consciousness is nothing but this, brain is nothing but living body is nothing but organic materials are nothing but protons, neutrons, electrons, and so on. Nothing buttery. But how do we know that? You say, isn't it obvious? No, it isn't. Google it. Madam, you should look up hard problem of consciousness. That is a direct question which deals with your question. Will I still exist? Is it possible that consciousness can continue after the death, physical death? The answer is yes, because consciousness is not rooted, is not generated by the body. That's, again, I should be very clear. It's not the mainstream view by any means. The mainstream view is still that mind, consciousness, all are gone when the body dies. In that case, all religion, all these philosophies, they will all be wrong in that case. Before we take that drastic step, we should investigate. I want the materialist reductionist to explain to me in detail how the brain generates consciousness. I will tell you one thing. Forget consciousness, Atman, Brahman. Just think one thought, ABCD in your mind. Just now, I think ABCD. There is not one brain scientist, neuroscientist, there is not one doctor, psychiatrist who can explain how the brain produced that thought ABCD. I challenge you. Anybody who knows a little bit ABCD also of brain science, neuroscience, you know, all of the third person objective approach stops at minute electrical activity observable in the brain. That's the last thing you can talk about physically. After that, how does that little minute brain activity translate into this thought in your mind, ABCD? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Not only nobody knows, nobody has the faintest clue where to begin. None of the theories. None of the theories now. There's a global workspace theory, there's a Tonini's integrated information theory. They don't even begin to explain. What is the name of the theory?
It's called as thought power hypothesis, which is
Yes.
And they have talked about that there is an entanglement which happens
Yes.
in the neuron,
Yes.
which is there everywhere.
Yes.
And consciousness is there, here, everywhere.
Yes.
When your body gets sustained, it is able to reflect itself.
Right.
Otherwise, no.
Which, in other words, I understand what you mean. Same thing. It means the same thing. Therefore, other than this explanation, the Vedantic idea I've given, I don't mean just Vedantic idea. Vedantic idea, there are some Buddhist philosophies, like I understand Tibetan Buddhism at its depth. The Dzogchen ideas, they are very similar to what we are talking about. And what you mentioned, the moment you mentioned Sir Roger Penrose's name, I now understand what you mean. Yes. How is this entanglement possible? He says that there must be some underlying reality which makes this quantum entanglement possible. And then he makes a good case for it, that it must be consciousness. Yes.
I just want to ask a different question, which is,
Yes.
I'm a cardiologist.
Yes.
Hospital here. My question is that we all become jnanis, and when you read gospel, and I have listened to Medhananda Swamiji.
Yes.
It's called Lion Maharaj, who's talking about the Vigyani,
Yes.
which I think is a beautiful concept. I
Yes.
think nothing can match that concept. My question is that when you grow, you understand, you have done Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam now.
Yes.
What happens to the mind structure? And I'm sure you have interactions with a lot of neuroscientists now. Being a doctor, I want to know what happens to our brain structure when the devotion comes. And devotion definitely comes. You can't stop it.
Yes. True. I don't know what happens to the brain structure as such.
Because I feel that your epigenetics, your mind, your brain structure changes. The gunas change.
I would agree with you. There will be some objective change also. I am Atman, that you are infinite existence consciousness, that's there, settled for everybody, no matter what mind we have, what brain structure we have. But once the mind gets this idea, takes hold of this idea, it has a tremendous effect on the mind. So the real difference between a Brahmagyani and the rest of us is, we don't know and the Brahmagyani knows. Difference is not in Brahman or Atman, the difference is in the mind. If there is a difference in the mind, as he says, there ought to be a corresponding difference in the brain. And that ought to be detectable. And the interesting thing here is, Swami Trigunatitananda, who was in San Francisco, a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, he was, I think, one of the first Swamis to be assassinated. He was killed in a bomb blast in San Francisco, all that way back. He had this idea, in those days, before modern neuroscience, that the brain of a Brahmagyani is different qualitatively. And he said he wanted his brain to be preserved after his death. It was not done, but what you said.
Because the material structure of our bodies are very, very similar. There is no difference. We age similarly. We presbyopia similarly. We menstruate similarly. I think it's the way the Prakriti and the gunas affect your brain and the way you have acquired the information in the world. Because your perception is also very, very according to your gunas. The Prakriti will make you in a certain way. You behave in a certain way. But when the jnana comes, then you change.
True.
And that change is also, and I like that concept of that you climb the ladder, which Ramakrishna, the gospel says, and then you come down. And then you become a big jnani.
You see everything as that one reality.
Yeah. And then that reality which he talked about is easy to handle with.
Is much easier to handle with, yes. Much easier from the Vigyani perspective. That's true. You mentioned, just by the way, that's why even while we are progressing in spiritual life, from the perspective of the mind and the gunas, it's always recommended that we cultivate sattva. In spiritual life, sattva guna is useful, helpful. Sattva itself is not spiritual. It's still part of the body-mind, still part of Prakriti. But it is most conducive to spirituality.
Swamiji, if I can continue.
Yes. I just one comment I want to make, because you mentioned Sir Roger Penrose. I actually heard one of his talks. I'll take the question next. It was in Calcutta many, many years ago. He had come to give a talk at British Council. Yes, I've mentioned that, yeah. Right. Swami Atmapriyanandaji took Shirish Maharaj, me, and another brahmachari to hear Sir Roger Penrose speak. And I still remember, he spoke of the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics, and he spoke about the triangle, universe, mathematics, and consciousness. How can these three things, they cooperate so well? How? It's very interesting that mathematics and the physical universe and the human consciousness. Sir, yes.
Swamiji, thank you. I am Komal Prasad. I am a neurosurgeon.
Yes.
Basically, my original interest was to find myself, and that's my area where I explored was through neurosurgery. And to extend this, I have physically seen all parts of the brain, and there is nothing which we can see as a substrate of consciousness anywhere in the brain. So that's something. And
Yes.
And basically I'm an Advaitin. So I try to teach Advaita in whatever possible way. And your way of approaching logically is something very interesting and which is easy to make the appeal to the people. Where I get stuck is about explaining Ananda. Like Sat and Chit is something which is easy and it is logically explainable. What was the need to bring in Ananda?
Ananda, yes.
How to take it to, in a logical way, to create an appeal of the need for Ananda.
Yes. I'll make an observation about that, and then we'll take one more question and wrap it up because we are running out of time. We have run out of time. But all of these are really good questions. And, there's a word in Sanskrit, rasik. Rasika means a person who enjoys the rasa. So you enjoy the rasa of Advaita. To be in a group like that, it's very enjoyable. One feels one can go on and on. But I won't, I promise. People are beginning to look horrified. Yes. Before I talk about the Ananda aspect, the neuroscience, it's good that we are in a very exciting new time for neuroscience and for consciousness studies. Right now, consciousness studies is booming. One of the leading consciousness studies, this brain scientist, Christoph Koch. So I remember he was in a debate with David Chalmers, and I attended that debate, and it ended with, I think, one of them, maybe David Chalmers, pouring a glass of water on top of Christoph Koch, in humor. But Christoph Koch said that when I entered this field, consciousness studies, my colleagues told me, you are killing your career. This will never go anywhere. Nobody, you cannot make any discovery. It is too ambitious a subject. But now you see, it's a hot subject. It's really, people are very interested in it. Ananda aspect. Yes. Often when I speak, some people notice after some time, you're talking about Sat and Chit. You talk about existence, awareness. What about Ananda? When will I be happy? And why bring in Ananda at all? Why bring in Ananda at all? Recently it struck me, one answer to your question, it struck me, the three greatest questions in philosophy, all of philosophy, three greatest, the branches of philosophy, the mainstream branches of philosophy, metaphysics, now it is known as ontology. They deal with the question of what is real. What's real? What's the ultimate reality? Second question, second branch of philosophy, epistemology, which deals with the question, how do we know anything at all? And the third question, meaning, purpose, goodness, morals, ethics, beauty, all of these. Earlier there was ethics, there was aesthetics, all of them have now been put together under one branch called axiology. So three branches, philosophy is covered in three branches, ontology, epistemology, and axiology. Reality, knowledge, values. And now I think some of you are beginning to get it. Sat, Chit, Ananda. What is ultimately real? Sat, pure being. How is any experience, any knowledge, anything knowable at all possible? Chit, because it is consciousness. What is the point of life? What is the value of life? What good is it? What is the purpose, goal? Ananda. And the Advaita, the tremendous breakthrough is this Sat and this Chit and this Ananda are one and the same thing, and that is you. You are the reality of this universe. You are the light of this universe, and you are the goal, purpose, and value of this universe. You, each of us. A tremendous discovery. Now, Where is this Ananda? What are we talking about? Here is the thing. When we say Ananda, immediately it comes to our mind, smiley face. Fun. I must be having fun. Advaita is not fun. Where is this Ananda? But when we speak about Ananda, we don't mean any particular feeling. Just as when I speak about Sat, existence, I don't mean any particular existing thing. That's why I think, for all the dangers, Shunyavada Buddhism is a strong corrective to Advaita Vedanta. They seem to be totally opposite. When you study them, you find them eerily similar and yet opposite. One is talking about infinite existence, Brahman. Other one is talking about complete emptiness. I will tell you something that may be shocking to you. You search for the Atman, search for Brahman, you will never find anything. Never. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. Swami, you're cheating us all this time. Long talk. Listen to what I said carefully. There is no such thing. Okay, there's nothing. No, not nothing. See, things, existing things are one level of reality. But existence itself is a deeper level of reality. What I mean by saying there is no such thing as Atman Brahman, I mean that Atman Brahman is not a thing. You can count the things in this universe, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, millions and billions, and then you will come to plus one Atman, inventory. I've completed inventory. Brahman has been found. No, you will never find Brahman that way. Because Sat, pure being, existence, is not a thing among existing things. 1. 2. Consciousness, awareness, Chaitanya. It is not one type of conscious experience. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, waking, dreaming, deep sleep. And then one more thing, pure consciousness. You say, Swami, I just caught you now. Upanishad says, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, Turiya. Gross misunderstanding of Advaita Vedanta. Gross misunderstanding. Turiya is not one more state. It is the reality of these three states. Gold is not another kind of ornament. It is the reality of all these golden ornaments. Which is more real? Don't say ornament. Gold is more real. So, Chit, consciousness, is not another type of conscious experience. Now take up Ananda. What kind of Ananda? So some joy, more joy, tremendous joy, and beyond that Ananda, Swami? No. What is joy? Greater joy, greatest joy? Priya, Moda, Pramoda, all these Upanishadic terms. All of them are manifestations of one reality. That is Ananda. But Ananda by itself is not a particular, what Americans would say, particular high. So they are all seeking a high, new high. Marijuana gives one type of high, and Vedanta will give another type of high. No, it's not another high. It's not a high or a low. That which underlies all your highs and lows. Shankaracharya says, there is an ocean of bliss within us. The spray, just the spray, the droplets of water, the spray from which all of humanity is madly running after life. The entire ocean is within you means it is you. That is Ananda, not a particular type of bliss. Just as Sat, being, is not a particular existing thing, Chit is not particular type of experience. All experiences are possible because of Chit. All existing things, smallest to biggest, is possible because of Sat. And all value, purpose, goodness, beauty in life, all fulfillment is possible because of Ananda. Still, the question will be nagging. So when I realize I am Brahman, Satchidananda, I will not feel happy. That is my whole goal. You don't have to worry about that. You will feel very happy, guaranteed. Just look at the lives of enlightened people. Look at their faces. Any tradition you find, I'm not talking only about Advaita Vedanta here. Whether it is a devotional tradition, whether it is a Vedanta tradition, enlightened people in every spiritual spiritual tradition are very, very happy, very fulfilled, the happiest and most fulfilled in all of life. Some people ask, all this is great, but it sounds very boring. After I realize I'm Brahman, it's finished. No, it's finished. Very boring. No, it's not boring. Proof. Look at the lives of those who have realized. Are they bored? One thing, they're never bored. They're always bubbling with fresh enthusiasm, happiness. If you take a psychological test of those people, they will come out as off the charts happy. Off the charts happy. Yeah. So underlying all of this, the implication is non-attachment to forms, ideas, feelings. Yes, it's right. The question is, so is this an implication that non-attachment to forms, ideas, in our psyche we attach it to this way? So isn't this the implication of what you are saying? Absolutely. Remember what I said, that at the level of mind, this samatha, seeing the same everywhere. At the level of our activities, day-to-day dealings with the world, detachment. Yeah, that's the implication. And if you practice it from that side, the path to realization become much faster, much more clear. Non-identification. Because in your real nature, you are not identified with anything. Good. I think that's a wonderful discussion. Let me do a peace chant.
Just a last.
All right, last, ask.
Pranams. Swamiji, just want to know if practicing Advaita can make you egotistical, because...
Oh, yes, it can. It can make you egotistical. It can make, these are the dangers. Egotistical, it can make you a hypercritic. No, actually it can. One sadhu said, because you are using the intellect. So he used the word tarka. Tarka means argument. And the opposite is a kenchi jaisa hai, the scissors. It's used to cut. Now, people who use scissors, they should know when to cut and when not to cut. You keep on cutting everything, left and right. These people become hyper-analytical, sometimes very dry, argumentative. I've read all the books, I know all the shlokas, I know all the arguments, so that's it. No, that's not it. That was not the purpose at all. Always going around cutting down everything. I remember Charlie Chaplin in that movie was there, I think Modern Times, in a factory. He was in the factory system, and his job was to tighten the screw on one assembly. He would just stand there, and one by one the machines will come. He has to do this. Whole day, this. After, in the lunch break, he can't stop. He's going like this, everywhere. And the foreman comes, the shop floor foreman, he comes to scold him. Hey, stop! And he does this to his nose, like this he does. So, Advaita can make you like cutting everything. I mean, it's a danger. And one danger, another danger I'll tell you. These are all little things you learn when you stay with practitioners and scholars and all. One effect of it is, because the buddhi, it is good at analysis. It becomes an expert in fault finding. An immature buddhi. If impure buddhi, you develop it to such an extent, you'll end up finding fault with everything. That was not the goal of Advaita. And that's why purity of mind is required before you enter into this kind of analysis. But these are all preliminary problems. You stick with it. Goal is God realization. Stick with Advaita. Which path will not make you egotistic? There's a funny story of monks. They are devoted and practicing non-egotism. They got into blows. I am less egotistic than you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this illuminating talk. You've highlighted that we are nothing but one, and that the real task is on us. However, having said that, I hope that this just marks the beginning of a long and strong association with you, and we get to host you again and again here on the campus. Shastriji, can we, if you don't mind, that's token of appreciation to Swami Sarvapriyanandaji and Swami Nityasanandaji. With this, we mark the end of this event. However, before we wrap up, I would like to thank a few people here at the Institute and outside. Many thanks to Colonel, CEO, Mr. Shivakuti, security team, Mr. Shiv Kumar, and everybody else who have put in a lot of hard work, and all the volunteers from the institute and outside. You know who you guys are. Thank you so much for doing this. And thank you to all the people who are sitting here for giving us all the warmth and the energy to make this happen. And my sincere apologies to so many of you who we could not accommodate here on campus. Hopefully next time when Swamiji is here, we'll have a bigger audience to host you. Thank you so much. I request everybody to please be seated and let the dignitaries leave the auditorium. Thank you.
A big thanks to Professor Manaswini and Nitesh Batra also.